Building a shelter from raw bamboo requires more than just gathering stalks. It demands an understanding of the material's geometry. Here, the builder starts laying the foundation for a raised floor. Split bamboo segments are arranged side by side. Elevating the living surface is crucial in a damp forest. It prevents moisture from wicking into bedding and keeps ground-dwelling insects at a distance. The smooth outer curve of the stalk faces upward, shedding any incidental water. Hours of cutting and weaving result in a flexible, resilient framework. The dome profile is one of the most efficient shapes in nature. By bending green bamboo under tension, the entire structure acts as a single, cohesive unit, distributing wind loads evenly across the woven grid. Without heavy timber or nails, the strength comes entirely from geometry and friction. A strong frame still needs a skin to block the elements. The surrounding jungle provides broad palm fronds, an ideal natural shingle. Harvesting fresh, green leaves is intentional. They remain pliable enough to manipulate without cracking or shattering in hand. Once dried on the frame, they will become rigid and highly water-resistant. The builder transports them in bulk, readying the final barrier against the weather. Thatching must follow a strict bottom-to-top sequence to be effective. By laying the lower tiers first and overlapping the subsequent upper layers, gravity naturally channels rain over the surface and away from the interior. She carefully aligns the heavy stems, securing the wide fronds directly into the woven bamboo grid. This interlocking method creates a thick, breathable barrier. Body heat and ambient humidity from inside can escape through the loose weave, while exterior moisture is deflected down the steep pitch. It is a time-tested natural insulation method. The leaves create an autonomous microclimate. With the roof sealed, the focus shifts to internal support. She hauls thick, mature bamboo stalks back to the site. Cutting mature culms requires a sharp, steady hand saw to avoid splintering the tough outer silica fibers. As the carbon steel blade works through the dense lignin, fine sawdust accumulates rapidly. Unlike young green saplings, this aged bamboo has fully hardened cell walls, offering incredible compressive strength. These segments will reinforce the primary floor joists, ensuring the raised platform can bear sustained weight without bending. As daylight fades, the work moves indoors under the warm glow of a lantern. She uses a small, precise tool to carve wooden implements. Small-scale carving is essential for crafting trap triggers, utensils, and specialized tools. In a survival setting, idle time is wasted time. The hands must keep moving. The first night in a newly built shelter tests the integrity of the day's labor. Sitting just inside the woven entrance, she eats a hot meal from a metal pot. The surrounding bamboo walls do more than block the wind. They provide a crucial psychological barrier against the vastness of the dark jungle. Consuming warm calories before sleeping helps regulate core body temperature through the night. The dense thatch overhead traps the ambient heat from the lantern and her body, creating a pocket of still, warm air. It is a moment of stabilization. The immediate needs of shelter and sustenance have been met, allowing the body to recover its glycogen stores for the next phase of work. Even within the safety of the dome, situational awareness never truly switches off. She peers through the gaps in the woven bamboo, monitoring the perimeter. The forest is alive with nocturnal movement, and listening is often more valuable than looking. Holding a small light source illuminates the immediate interior, but it also ruins night vision, making the external darkness feel even more impenetrable. The gaps in the wall are a deliberate design choice, allowing for cross-ventilation and observation without compromising physical security. In a wild environment, knowing what moves just beyond the walls is a fundamental survival instinct. The structure is a shield, but vigilance is the first line of defense. Moving back to production, she bends a thick, flexible vine into a sturdy hoop. This circular frame will serve as the tensioned rim for a woven basket. By morning, the completed vine basket is put immediately to use. She uses a sharp knife to cleanly sever wild mushrooms from the damp forest floor. Foraging requires absolute certainty in species identification, as toxic lookalikes are common. Fungi thrive in this decaying organic matter, providing an essential source of micronutrients and fiber when protein is scarce. The damp undergrowth is an incredibly productive ecosystem. Her basket slowly fills with a mix of earthy fungi and large, brown-shelled land snails. Snails are a reliable, slow-moving protein source in tropical and subtropical forests, easily gathered by hand. They graze on moss and decaying leaves, converting the forest's detritus into highly accessible calories. She reaches into hidden, moist crevices, where they congregate to avoid the heat of the day. A successful harvest means a substantial meal, but preparation is critical. Wild snails can carry harmful parasites, so they must be thoroughly purged and cooked. Moving to a rushing stream, she meticulously washes the soil and debris from her gather. The cold, oxygenated water easily flushes dirt from the mushroom gills and snail shells. Food sanitation in the wild is just as important as the calories themselves. A gastrointestinal illness here would rapidly deplete hydration and energy reserves, turning a minor oversight into a severe survival threat. She works methodically, ensuring every piece is clean. Night returns, and the campfire becomes the focal point. She uses long, thin sticks to skewer the prepared snails, maximizing their surface area for even heat distribution. Boiling the mushrooms and snails in a metal pot ensures any remaining pathogens are neutralized. A sustained rolling boil of at least 100 degrees Celsius is the most foolproof method for making wild forage safe to consume. The heat rapidly breaks down the complex proteins in the snail meat, making it digestible. Crouching by the flames, she monitors the cooking process, guided by the lantern's glow and the rhythmic crackle of the fire. To expand her cooking capabilities, the builder has constructed a large conical mud oven near the waterfall. The cracked, hardened clay surface is the result of thermal shock, rapid expansion and contraction as the intense internal heat bakes the wet mud into a crude ceramic. This primitive kiln design traps heat brilliantly, allowing for high-temperature roasting rather than just open flame boiling. With the oven established, she patrols the shallow, rocky stream bed to find larger game. The moving water masks her footsteps, allowing her to approach aquatic life without transmitting heavy vibrations through the ground. She scans the edges where roots and rocks form natural aquatic bottlenecks. She probes the murky water with a thin wooden tool, coaxing hidden creatures from beneath submerged boulders. Some aquatic prey retreat into deep terrestrial burrows along the muddy banks. Spotting a dark entry hole surrounded by excavated sediment, she immediately begins digging into the soft earth. This requires moving quickly before the animal can retreat further into the complex root system. The dark soil here is saturated and heavy, making hand digging a muddy, strenuous effort. Her persistence pays off as a large freshwater crab is exposed. Crabs often burrow above the waterline to avoid aquatic predators, relying on the damp soil to keep their gills wet. It is a dense, high-yield protein source, well worth the physical exertion of excavating the muddy bank. Handling wild crabs requires a precise, decisive grip from behind to avoid the animal's powerful, crushing pincers. She pins the hard carapace firmly against the mossy rock before lifting it completely free from the mud. Standing up in the shallow current, she assesses the substantial catch. A freshwater crab of this size offers excellent nutritional value, heavily rich in essential minerals like zinc and calcium, which are often difficult to source in a wild forage diet. Securing it by hand eliminates the need to expend time and calories building stationary traps. Another successful catch yields a pale, snake-like eel, a highly prized source of rich dietary fat. Eels have incredibly tough, slippery skin that makes processing them difficult. To manage the long body for roasting, she employs a clever geometric technique, winding the meat tightly in a spiral around a thick green bamboo pole. This method secures the flesh without needing any synthetic twine. The green bamboo core acts as an internal heat sink, preventing the center of the meat from cooking too fast while the outside chars. It also keeps the slippery meat from falling into the ashes as the fat renders down. With the food mounted, she splits hardwood logs to feed the mud oven. A sharp blade is driven down with precise force, fracturing the wood along its natural grain. Small, split pieces of wood ignite faster and burn hotter, crucial for quickly raising the ambient temperature inside the thick clay walls of the primitive kiln. A hot, clean burn is necessary to bake the eel evenly. The prepared bamboo skewer is thrust directly into the glowing heart of the mud oven. Inside, the thermal mass of the clay radiates intense, consistent heat from all directions. By slowly rotating the pole, she ensures an even Maillard reaction across the entire surface. The high heat caramelizes the natural sugars and renders the dense fats, turning the pale flesh a crisp golden brown. Withdrawing the pole, she inspects the roasts carefully. Visual cues are critical when cooking over an open, unregulated heat source. The deep amber color and slightly charred edges indicate that the exterior moisture has been driven off, locking the rendered fats inside the meat. The meat shrinks as it cooks, causing the spiral pattern to tighten its grip on the bamboo core. By the waterfall, she slowly peels a steaming section away from the wood. The flesh separates cleanly, proving the cooking process has fully broken down the tough connective tissues. The environment yields more than just immediate meals. It provides the means for long-term food preservation. After bathing in the cold, clear waterfall to regulate her temperature, she sets to work on food storage. Thin strips of meat are laid out on a bamboo drying rack suspended over a smoky fire. Smoking meat removes moisture and coats the surface in antimicrobial phenols, drastically extending its shelf life without refrigeration. Covering the rack with large banana leaves traps the dense wood smoke, turning the open pit into an efficient enclosed smoker. Moving through steep, unbroken terrain requires engaging the entire body. She utilizes exposed root systems as natural handholds, maintaining 3 points of contact on the sheer, rocky ascent. Navigating this treacherous topography expends massive amounts of energy, making her previous calorie and protein intake absolutely vital to the journey. The builder shifts to fortifying a more permanent stone shelter. She harvests long green vines from the undergrowth, pulling hard to test their tensile strength. Fresh vines act like natural ratcheting straps. A vertical sapling is positioned tightly against the stone threshold. This pole will serve as the rigid anchor point for an intricate lattice doorframe. The woven wooden lattice is secured with a heavy wooden latch mechanism. A solid door prevents large scavengers from intruding while still allowing airflow through the gaps. Crawling out, she leaves the stone shelter fortified and moves back into the brush. Security is only half the equation. Passive hunting is the other. She clears a patch of earth to set a terrestrial trap. By digging a shallow pit along a natural animal run, she creates a deceptive depression. When covered with debris, the trap becomes an invisible hazard to ground-dwelling rodents. Setting snares requires patience and an understanding of animal behavior, turning the environment itself into an automated hunting tool. It works silently, long after she has left the area. The trapping mechanism requires a deep, steep-sided cavity. Using a sharpened wooden stick, she gouges out the compacted dirt, shaping a pit that will hold a woven basket. Once the hole is excavated, she employs a clever technique to dry and harden the surrounding soil. A small bundle of dry leaves and twigs is dropped into the depression and ignited. The concentrated fire bakes the interior walls of the pit, hardening the loose dirt into a stable, dry chamber. This prevents the edges from collapsing inward and ensures the basket fits snugly without moisture rotting the woven fibers. The earlier snare yields a large forest rat, providing an immediate return on the passive trap lines. Resetting the zone, a fresh woven basket is slotted perfectly into the fire-hardened pit, ready to intercept the next creature traveling this path. The final stage of development is a subterranean dugout. Earth is a phenomenal insulator. The thick walls of packed soil regulate temperature perfectly, supported by arched wooden beams and a central mud-plastered pillar. With the heavy excavation finished, the builder takes time to physically reset. Washing away the mud and sweat in the cold waterfall pool is critical for hygiene and morale. The cold water immersion drastically lowers core body temperature, reducing inflammation in overworked muscles and flushing metabolic waste from the tissue. In a long-term survival scenario, physical degradation is a constant threat. Taking a moment to cool down and cleanse the skin prevents severe bacterial infections in minor cuts and scrapes. Standing in the shallow stream to dry off, she leaves the exhaustion of the heavy dirt work behind. The physical shelter is secure. Now she transitions to the final outfitting of her subterranean home. The smoked meat, now thoroughly dehydrated and cured by the phenols, is collected from the outdoor rack. She carries the dry harvest inside the dugout, preparing to settle in for the night. An internal heat source is necessary in an earthen shelter to combat the inherent ambient dampness of the soil. She strikes a bright spark into a bundle of fine kindling positioned inside the arched mud fireplace. The thick earthen hearth safely contains the intense flames while its dense mass absorbs and radiates thermal energy back into the small living space. She wraps portions of the cured meat in broad green banana leaves to protect them from insects and dirt, creating a natural, sterile pantry within the shelter. As the glowing orange fire builds, she feeds it thicker hardwood to establish a slow-burning coal bed that will last until dawn. The transition is complete. What began as an exposed plot of damp forest is now a fortified, self-sustaining base camp with food storage, structural security, and controlled fire. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system, a place that produces, protects, and sustains itself.